I'm Ken Beatty, and I'm a writer. I'm traveling the world looking for the relationships between people and plants. Plants provide us with most things in life. They give us food, shelter, and medicine. But plants also contribute to our cultural traditions. The heritage of a community is passed on through the generations. The traditions that make them distinct in their world often come from plants. To explore that idea, we're heading to the South Pacific. We'll visit the Maori in New Zealand, where the traditions of carving and weaving are rooted in the plants of that country. But first, Australia, near the city of Cairns, which is located on the northeast corner of the continent, to a cultural park where the traditions of the Aboriginal Jabagai are grounded in their music.
It's the oldest instrument in the world. The oldest instrument in the world.
This musical instrument has been part of Aboriginal tradition in Australia since the beginning of time. It's called the didgeridoo.
We are told that we are one of the oldest races in the world, from that point of view. The Europeans couldn't work out where we come from or what we were, so they dubbed us as being not quite human, the missing link in some cases. Didgeridoos were used, we say, back into the dreaming in the beginning.
The origin of Aboriginal culture is said to be more than 20,000 years old. It's probably the oldest culture on Earth. At the Jabagai Cultural Park, a group of young Aboriginal actors perform a scene from their history, a hunting dance. They say through dances like these, they are spiritually linked with the earth. These dances are symbolic of their dream time. This dream time is what inspires their songs, dances, paintings, and storytelling. And the playing of the didgeridoo, or listening to its music, helps to put them in a dream state. Willie is an elder in the Jabagai tribe.
It could change the moods of people. It could tell people stories just through sound, as we do in dance through movement, or you can do it with the didgeridoo through sound.
You pick the sound up off the trees and the breeze and birds singing that and sit out in the field and watch kangaroos jumping around, you know, and you've picked those feeling up because you see it and you got that feeling on that same day. Well, then you'll go back into your didgeridoo and play it there.
Stephen is 29 years old and he's been performing with the dance group for 8 years. But he's been playing the didgeridoo, well, like most Aboriginals, longer than even he can remember.
I couldn't really tell you that, you know. I sort of grew up with it, you know, and I just, very hard answer. That's the way I grew up.
Wow, that's amazing. Now, sitting up close to you, I heard you a lot of...
Cycle breathing.
Cycle?
Cycle breathing.
Show me how that works. How did you do that?
Yeah.
I don't know if I can do that. So you explain it. You took your air goes in your nose.
You take your air through your nose and straight out through your mouth. In other words, you're giving yourself to breathe more easier.
The didgeridoo comes from nature. It's made from many different kinds of trees found in the Australian bush.
You select certain kinds of tree, like malleewood, wandoo, rivergum, stringy bark, hickory, mulga. This one here, made from white gum. It's pretty light. So once you've selected your tree, you knock onto it. You listen for the sound.
The sound will tell you if the branch is hollow. Now, by cutting into the tree branch, you can see if the white ants or termites have moved in yet. In Australia, during the wet season, the termites climb and lay their eggs inside the branches up off the soggy ground. The hollowing out of the branches caused by the termites chewing is essential to the sound of a good didgeridoo.
Then with a stick, you can push down and take all the flake out. It's like a paper inside. If it's bendy, sometimes our people put hot coals in. The hot coals burn through the paper and clean it out. Then you wash it out with the water. You take the bark off, but before you do that, you try it, you play it. Does it have a good sound? If it doesn't, you throw it away. It's just a piece of wood. If it's good, then you paint it. You do all your artwork on it. And over a period of time of perfecting it and cleaning it and hollowing it out, you get the different sound techniques. Because not one didgeridoo is alike, because the termites eat up in different wavelengths and different cavities in the didgeridoo, so they all sound different, so they become very personalised.
Is the size important to the didgeridoo?
Yes, the size is important. If it's bigger, it's going to be bassier.
Oh, that makes sense.
And if it's smaller, you're going to have real high pitch.
The didgeridoo is often used in celebrations involving the entire tribe, or it can be used for quiet moments of reflection by the musician himself. However, in Aboriginal tradition, it's never played by a woman.
And a woman in our side can't play the didgeridoo. And we sort of found out around that there's a lot of Aboriginal culture don't let the woman play didgeridoo.
Isn't that something?
So, yeah, still trying to figure that out.
So within Aboriginal tribes, you have men's business and you have women's business. And that goes for hunting as well. Now, with the instruments, like the didgeridoo, as well as the clap boomerangs and the tapsticks, they were mainly done by men, okay? And it is believed that if women were to play didgeridoo, they'd fall pregnant. And that is one of the myths that surrounds our didgeridoo. I think it's just a way of saying women don't touch this because it's not your business.
The tradition of the didgeridoo is something these young men are very proud of. The instrument comes from nature, from the trees beyond the hills of their cultural center. As they sing and dance to express themselves, welcoming outsiders into their fold, there is hope that the tradition of making music from the branches of the trees will always stay with them.
It's no use growing up in an environment when you got this much trees around you and plants and animals and stuff and don't know what they're there for, you know. You just become lost walking around in your own land. And this is what we teach our children.
When we come back, it's on to New Zealand, where the Maori pass their cultural torch to the next generation. Today, only 8% of the population of New Zealand is Maori. They do not use hieroglyphs or the written word to preserve their traditions. But for thousands of years, it's been passed on to younger generations through oral history, singing and dancing. But the Maori also use something else, their traditions of carving and weaving. Surrounding these dancers on the walls and ceilings of their meeting house are the heroes of tribal mythology and folklore. Spaced between panels of weaving, these carved faces tell stories of Maori history. The panels are weaved from plants, the wood from a very special tree.
Well, why has he got his tongue out like that?
Predominantly it was a challenge. And the challenge was to see whether or not these people were coming with good intention or they were coming to perhaps fight.
So if you weren't a friend, if you were coming with bad intentions, what would happen then?
Well, that's telling them, well, I'm challenging you, and if you want to fight me, now is your time to do it. So you'd find out very quickly whether or not they were coming to in peace.
Taparoto Torereha, whom I was told I could call Tapa for short, is a master Maori carver at the New Zealand Arts and Craft Institute. He says these carvings are Maori archives. It was the job of the carver to record the tribe's history and traditions in wood.
Which created for him a special position within our societies, because he was this person, knowledgeable in the histories, knowledgeable in the events, knowledgeable in the genealogies, the whakapapas, and putting all of those together to create the picture for all to see.
Tapa teaches young Maori men the tradition of carving. You have to be 18 years old and have at least one drop of Maori blood to be accepted into the class.
It feels good to be a part of something that has taken generations to evolve and to make up. And yeah.
Tui, what does a carver need to know?
To always have a humble attitude. I feel that's most important because how you accept knowledge, you shouldn't abuse it. so it should be given back in the same way that you've received it. Secondly, to have a spiritual sense about yourself, to be fully aware of your inner self.
Much of that spiritual sense comes from the tree used by the Maori carvers to tell their stories. It's called a totara tree. It has a very special place in the tradition of the Maori people.
Wow, this is like going into a primeval or a primitive forest.
I was taken by two Maori chiefs to the bush. Paurihi, the chief whose village owns the land, and Chief Thomas Higgins, who translated for me. When we arrived at the totara stand, Chief Paurihi addressed the god of the forest in Maori. It's their tradition to always use their own language before explaining anything to anyone in English.
This tree that's lying here is one of the children of Tane, our forest god. It's fallen, and Pahiri wasn't aware that it was lying here. But he also says next to it is a totara.
The totara is about 200 feet tall and more than 500 years old. Today, few totara trees are cut down for carving. The Maori carvers take only the trees that have fallen onto the forest floor. But if a totara does need to be cut down, a chief will be called in to perform the traditional ceremony.
They come in before daylight. This man comes in, the tohunga comes in. They've selected the tree, and he does his incantations round the tree until they're done. Special prayers to the god of the forest to release one of his children, and then when that's over, they depart, and then the people who cut it down come in, and away they go.
This connection to the totara tree is not only spiritual for the Maori, but also practical.
The thing is, the tree is an easy one to carve. It's very soft to split if you want posts to make canoes from. Very easy to manipulate.
The length of the totara was ideal for the long war canoes traditionally used by the Maori. One of the largest totaras recorded in Maori history was estimated by the local conservation board to be 2,500 years old. But Tapa thinks it's even older than that. Its location is protected. Not everyone gets a chance to see it. But Tapa remembers having had the opportunity almost 20 years ago when he was just starting his training as a young carver.
This experience was such that we reached this area, we parked the car, we went from the road into the bush, and the language changed. We left the Western world out there, and as soon as we took this step into the bush,
Tapa was taken to the tree by his teacher, the master carver, the Hunga Whakai. He says it was a day that changed his life. It changed the way he looked at the natural environment.
I'd heard stories, I'd read books, but nothing taught me the way that he taught me. You could see, you could touch, you can feel, you could smell, you could taste, and you could hear. And you heard it the way he heard it. So no book can replace that learning. No book could give me that experience. It was an experience special, and now, as a result of that experience, I'll never look. I'll never stop and listen and see what I now can see the way I used to.
So why is it then that a woman can't come into the forest? Like we had a special prayer.
Well, we're talking about a specific tree and for a specific purpose. If this tree was for a meeting house or for a canoe or something, well, the women wouldn't be allowed in here because it's tapu from the time the prayers are offered up till the time the prayers are finished when the building is completed.
In Maori tradition, not only is it taboo for women to be in the bush when the trees are being cut down, it's also taboo for them to carve.
Why women weren't allowed to carve? Well, when they go taku whakaurua tu kia koe, o tākene mō heo wetaheonga korora tu kia. All over our country, other than two tribal areas, our women are protected. They're not restricted in any way. They're protected. They're nurtured because they are te whare te tangata. They are the givers of life. They are the houses of the next generation. And what happens when you destroy the house, the giver of life, your generations stop, and so do your people.
When we come back, the essential roles of women in the Maori traditions. Maori women have a natural ability for singing. They are often referred to as the singing birds of the culture. But it's their weaving they take pride in. Traditionally, Maori women weaved everything their communities needed to survive.
The weaving was the weaving of the clothing, the weaving of the skirt, the weaving of the baskets in which to gather and to carry the food, the weaving of the mats in which to sit and to sleep, the weaving of the feather cloaks which gave us the added warmth, the weaving and the stripping of the flax, and the plaiting and the weaving of the fibres to make all forms of cord. That was done every day throughout the life of a Maori.
Emily Schuster is an elder in the Maori culture and an expert weaver. She greeted me in the traditional way when we met at the Arts and Craft Institute where she teaches. Holding hands, we lightly touch noses. It's called the hangi. Maori traditions are very important to Emily, especially the one involving the phormium plant, more commonly called flax. Donna Waraki was taught how to weave by Emily. She's harvesting some flax that grows just outside the weaving studio.
Now, for one skirt, one pew-pew, you need at least 240 of these blades. And if you're going to strip them down that skinny, you're going to need about 600. So this is the width.
Okay. A pew-pew is the Maori name for their traditional skirts. They are worn by both men and women. The flax is very stiff and quite fibrous, which also makes it very strong.
The Māori word for flax is harakeke. Harakeke.
How do you think that the Maoris feel about their flax? Where would they be without their flax?
Well, from the flax plant, and this is speaking for myself, flax you can make 101 things from. I believe flax is a living thing, and very spiritual. Flax can overtake your life as well. It's something you can become addicted to. I can sit and work with flax, hours on end. It just takes over your whole life.
Once Donna and I finished making our strips, we took them over to Robin. Robin, another weaver, marks the traditional Maori pattern on the pew-pew on these strips.
Every single blade. For one pew-pew, say 36-inch waist, she will have to mark about 240 of these blades.
How long does that take, Robin?
It takes about a week.
What's the next stage?
The next stage, we get the mussel shell, and what we do is
I want to see this.
we scrape in between every second mark, and we remove this waxy film so the fibre becomes exposed. Flax has a waxy outside, and when we dye, if we leave any of this putter on, the dye won't get through to the fibre. The dye will just wash off.
On the wax.
So all this wax must come off.
Once 250 of these strips have been marked and scraped, it's time to cut the sections out with the sharp side of a mussel shell. Then Donna removes enough of the green from the top end of the flax to leave a length of fibrous string. She rolls the fibers together to form a pair, and the traditional way to do this is on the bare leg.
By the way, good hair remover. So it's down, together, back. This will hold the two blades together. It will not come undone unless you purposely pull it apart.
Behind the weaving studio are the hot thermal springs. Located in the center of the city of Rotorua, for centuries these springs have been used by the Maori to soak their weaving. The hot water, 100 degrees Fahrenheit, will soften, cleanse, and curl the stiff blades of flax. Trevina soaks her pew-pew for just 5 minutes. When she takes it out, it's ready for dyeing in the traditional Maori colors. The pew-pew goes through a number of stages in the dyeing process. A secret kind of peat mud is used for the color. Only adolescent girls are shown the location and identification of this mud. It's an ancient belief for Maori women to keep this colored mud a secret. They've always believed that if they didn't, the Creator would take it away from them and it would disappear.
The connection of the Maori has with a plant is that it's a living thing. It is a thing that had been given to us by a creator. The plant gives you material for your housing, material for your clothing, material for your medicines and your food. And so it's very important, very deep, and it has been even for me. And I talk about the old people 600 years ago, and what I know is what has been passed down from generation to what I know of the bush, of the forest, and what it gives.
Emily says it's particularly important to keep these traditions alive for the Maori youth of today.
My mother was born in a house with a dirt floor. Hey, that's a little old wharepuni. Now, I was born in a house with a wooden floor. My children are born in a house with a carpet on the floor. My grandchildren are born with space games in their hands, you know. That's 4 generations. And look at the difference. And now you've got a computer world, and even your computers outdate themselves every 6 months. So where does the tradition try to fit in a computer world, in the world of science and technology? Our role is to make sure that at least one member in your family has the opportunity to feel the plant, the seed, how the seed is nurtured in the bush and what it grows into, what it is used for.
Look back and understand and take what it is you can learn, to understand what you are, so that you may understand how you can move forward. So have a look at yesterday, to understand today what it is you do tomorrow.
I spent my last few hours in New Zealand in the bush. I sat among the totara trees, the keepers of Maori history. As long as these trees are safely guarded in the forest, people like Tapa will always be successful in passing on the heritage that lives within them. And women like Emily, who feel responsible for teaching future generations of mothers the importance of nurturing a seed, understanding where it came from, and what you can do with it. I'm Ken Beattie. Join me next time as we continue our journey through the Earth's Garden.